This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we'll be starting our next topic, invoice verification part 2. Okay, in invoice verification part 2, the topics that we are going to cover, they are uh, enter or change tax information in an invoice, enter or change cash discount information, posting of gross or net of cash discount, enter invoice in foreign currency, enter invoice for PO with account assignment group, okay, and entering invoices relating to a blanket purchase order. So these are the topics we'll be covering in the invoice verification part 2. So we'll start with so basically most of the invoices received by a company are normally taxable. Okay, so the person who does the invoice verification has to check whether the tax data is correct or not. Okay, and also uh, so people has to take into account the terms of payment when they enter the data in the invoice. Okay, and sometimes occasionally the invoice currency varies from the local currency. Let's say you are procuring a material from a foreign vendor, so his currency might be different from your local currency. Let's say we have the currency INR. Let's say you are procuring a material from a let's say from England, let's say from a UK vendor. So his currency will be different. Pounds, his currency will be pound. So how to handle that? That we will see it in the system. Okay. And at the same time, in the purchase order, you can assign the goods to procure directly to an account assignment object. In this case, the materials are posted straight into consumption and not into storage. This already we have seen. So in those kind of scenarios, while doing the invoice verification, how to post to multiple accounts, that also we will see it in the today's topics. Okay, so first we'll start with tax. Okay, so normally whenever you procure a material, you will be paying some tax to the supplier vendor, which is called input tax. Let's say we are a company, we are procuring a material from a supplier. Okay, so when you are procuring a material from the supplier, when we make the payment, we will be paying the tax also, which is called input tax. Okay, and at the same time, we manufacture a material and we sell the product to the customer. That time we will be making the output tax, which is called VAT, value added tax. So as per the country norms, we will be making the tax. We will be paying the tax to the regulatory authorities, regulatory bodies. So this tax, how we are going to handle in the system, we will see. Okay, so when you do the invoice verification, invoice entry, you will be making the you will enter the tax code in the invoice verification. So according to that, system will calculate the tax in the invoice verification. So we will see that. So let's go to the system. Okay, so I'll go to the transaction Miro, my Miro. Okay, I'll enter the company code 1000. So on the Miro transaction, if you observe, by default, the system is proposing the tax, domestic input tax 19%. Okay, so this is the tax. This is the tax code. Okay, we will discuss in a minute on what basis this tax code is defaulted here. How it is coming by default, we'll discuss in a minute. Okay, so this is the tax code basically. Okay, so when you create a PO and when you do the invoice verification, this tax code will automatically get inherited to the purchase order items. So I'll create a uh, brand new purchase order. Give me 21 yen. I'm creating a new purchase order. This is a vendor. Okay, I'll enter 2 materials. Okay. Okay, I entered 2 materials. Okay. So now check everything good. Now I'm saving the purchase order. So this purchase order is having 2 items. Okay, so let me take the item, take the purchase order. I will do the good receipt. Okay, GR, MIGO. Okay, good receipt, purchase order, enter the purchase order number. Okay, I'm receiving the material into this storage location. Okay, so now check everything is okay, post it. So we have received the material. Now when you do the invoice verification, okay, so when we do the invoice verification, you see how system will behave. Okay, just one. What was the PO number? Just one. MA 23N. Oh, so this is the PO number. So this is a PO number. And now for this PO, let us do the invoice verification. So I'll start the Miro transaction again. MIRO. Okay. So here in this transaction, let me enter the date. Okay, enter. Now this is the tax code defaulted into the header of the Miro transaction. So now I'll enter our purchase order, enter. So now if you see here, whatever the tax code which is there on the header will get automatically inherited to the line items. So if you scroll to right in the items, see each item got the tax code as a 19%, which is inherited from header to the items. Now if we change the tax code at the header level, it will not change it to the item level. So suppose now if I change it to 10%, I1, input tax by 10%, enter. If I enter, it will not change at the item level. Item level, the old one remains the same. If you want to change it here, you have to change it again here manually. So this is how the tax will work in the invoice verification, in the Miro transaction. So if you change at the header level, it will not change at the item level. If you want to change at item level, you have to come here and you have to change it at the item level also. Okay, so this is the
Hello.
Hello.
Someone? Yeah, Tyagarajan. Yeah. See, this tax will come from PO, right?
No, it will be coming from the configuration. I'll tell you how it is come from. It will be coming from the configuration. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Okay, yeah, you can mute now. Okay, so this is what you need to understand. So if you change the tax code at header level, it will not change it to item levels. Again, in the item levels, it will take the initial tax code which you need. If you want to change it, you have to go at item level and you have to change it. Okay, so that is the entering the tax code in the invoice entry, during the invoice entry. Now how this tax code is getting defaulted in the Miro transaction. So suppose if I start the Miro transaction again, I'm not posting this document again, I'm starting Miro transaction. Okay, if you when I go to this Miro transaction, if you observe here, the tax code VA 19% is coming by default. From where it is coming by default? Because of which setting? You need to understand that. So that setting is coming because of some customization in the logistics invoice verification. So this is the path. Okay, SPRO, Materials Management, Logistics Invoice Verification, maintain default values for tax code. It will be maintained at company code level. Okay, so I'll show you that. Let's go to the configuration. SPRO, SAP reference ING. Scroll down. Go to what is the path? Materials Management. Okay, go to Logistics Invoice Verification. Logistics Invoice Verification. Okay, now go to maintain default values for tax code, or you can directly go to transaction OMR2. You can go to directly for that also. Okay, what is it? Maintain default values. What is it? Logistics invoice verification. Here, maintain default values for tax codes. Here you see there is option. Of course, here we missed incoming invoice. Just 1 minute. Let me add that. Incoming invoice. Incoming invoice. Okay. So here you see maintain default values for tax codes. So if you go here the default tax code is maintained at company code level. So we are using company code 1000. So if you select the company code, if you go to details, see this is the one maintained. Tax code is VA. 19% domestic input tax. So because of this setting, when we go to the Miro transaction, by default system is proposing this tax code. Of course you can change it. Of course you can change it. Okay, so this is the, because of this setting, because of this configuration setting, system is proposing the default tax code. Normally this default tax code will be created by the finance team, financial accounting team. They will create, but as a MM consultant, you should know where it is available, the main default tax code in the Miro transaction. Okay, either you can go through this entire navigation path, or you can directly jump to this transaction OMR2. Okay, so it is maintained at company code level. So for each company code, you will have a default tax code. That is why for our company code, it is coming as default 1000. For 1000 company code, it is coming as default. Company code 1000, this is coming by default. Of course, you can change it. Okay, so this is the default tax code. Now we'll discuss on the terms of payment. Okay, so what is terms of payment? Sometimes you will have an agreement with your vendor that, let's say, if you make the payment within 10 days, within 10 days of the due date, he will give you a 3% discount. And if you make the payment within 20 days of the due date, he will give you the 2% discount. And if you make the payment in 30 days, he will not give you any kind of discount. Okay, so these kind of things are handled in terms of payment. Terms of payment. Okay, so these terms of payment actually maintained in the vendor master. Okay, so suppose if I open a notepad file, terms of payment, normally first it is maintained in vendor master. Now from the vendor master, when you create a PO, they will get inherited to the purchase order. Your purchase order. Okay, and from the purchase order, they will get terms of payment will get inherited to the invoice. Your invoice document. That is nothing but Miro. Okay, so we will see in the vendor master where you will maintain the terms of payment. So if I go to our PO, let me come out of this. Okay, if I go to ME21, ME23, yeah. Okay, so this is our vendor, the PO which we created just now. So if you go here, header, if you open the header, you see here in the delivery invoice tab, you can see the terms of payment. Terms of payment. Why? How it is coming by default? This payment terms is maintained in this vendor master. So I'll go to the vendor master XK03, which we discussed in our master data classes. If you go to the display vendor, company code is 1000, purchase organization is 1000. So suppose select all, go inside, enter, 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 enter. Here you see the terms of payment 0002. So if you open it, if you open the list, so this is the one. Within 14 days, 3% cash discount. If you make the payment within 30 days, 2% cash discount. And if you make within 45 days, there is no discount. So this terms of payment is maintained in the vendor. Master. So when you create the PO for this vendor, this payment terms will get defaulted to the PO, purchase order. So I'll just create a brand new PO again, fresh PO, ME21M. Okay, so I enter the vendor. The moment I enter the vendor, I enter purchase organization, group, company code. The moment I enter this, if I go to delivery and invoice tab, see, the payment terms got defaulted. The payment terms got defaulted from the vendor master. And this will again get defaulted to the invoice document. So what I will do, we have already a PO. Okay, let me create a PO. I'll create for 100 PO. Price, plan time will enter. Okay, so I'm creating a PO. Check for any issues. No issues. I'm saving the purchase order. Purchase order got created. Okay, I'll take the purchase order. I'll do the GR. We go. Goods receipt. Enter the story location. Enter. Now check for any issues. No issues. I'm posting it. Okay, so material document posted. Now I'll take the PO. Let's do the what do you call invoice verification. Miro. So when you go to Miro, enter the invoice date. Enter. Now when I enter the purchase order here, okay, the moment I enter the purchase order here, you see terms of payment has come over here. Okay, so if you observe here in the invoice Miro transaction, in the basic data tab, terms of payment will be in display mode. They will be in display mode. Okay, but same terms of payment will be in editable mode in the payment tab. In the payment tab, they will be in editable mode, and if you want to change it, you can change it over there. In the same transaction, in the same Miro transaction, terms of payment will be in display mode in the basic data tab, whereas in the payment tab, they will be in editable mode, where if you want to change it, you can change it. Okay, so I'll show you this. So if you go to the Miro transaction, okay, I'll close this. Okay, so if you go to the Miro, if you see here in the basic data tab, terms of payment is grayed out. You cannot change it here. Okay, but if you go to the payment tab, see, they are in editable mode. If you want to change it, you can change it. Let's say I want to make it 10 days. Within 10 days, let's say it is 2.5%. Okay, and let's say within 30 days, let's say it is 1%. So if you want to change it, you can change it. That you can do it in the payment tab in the Miro transaction. That is what you need to understand. So this is the terms of payment. Okay, so now we will see some theory part. Okay, so to define when an invoice must be paid, you can agree on terms of payment with your vendor. So basically, how to make the payment, you will have an understanding with your supplier vendor, that is called terms of payment in the system. The terms of payment contain the terms you have agreed with the business partner with regards to financial compensation due for deliveries and services rendered. Okay, normally the terms of payment can have 3 levels. Okay, normally terms of payment will have 3 levels. Like for example, if you pay within 5 days, there is a 3% discount. Within 10 days, a 2% discount, and within 20 days, you pay the net price. Okay, so basically the discount guaranteed by the vendor therefore reduces the cost price. Okay, so this is the terms of payment. Okay, so the terms of payment normally configured by the finance team, your FICO consultant at this transaction OBB8. Okay, so that's why this configuration path is also in the financial accounting. They will do that. Anyhow, I'll show this. Okay, I'll show this. Let's go to the configuration. SPRO, SAP reference IMG. Okay, go to financial accounting. Okay, go to account receivable and accounts payable. Okay, here go to business transactions. Okay, and incoming invoice and credit memos. Incoming invoice and credit memos. Okay. Now the next one is maintain terms of payment. Here, maintain terms of payment. Okay, so here they have maintained it. This is the one which is used in our vendor master is this one, 0002. So you have 3 levels here. Okay, normally you will have 3 levels. So terms of payment will normally be created by the finance team, FICO team. FICO consultants will create. You will not be creating in the real time. But as consultant, you should know what is this terms of payment, where it is used, how they work, all those things you should. Okay, so that is the terms of payment. Next one we will be discussing is posting gross or net. Okay, so when you do the invoice verification, you have the option of posting the gross. It means, let's say your invoice value is 100. Okay, and your discount is 3%. Okay, so you will be posting total 100. Okay, now let's say you want to post net value. So let's say your invoice value is 100. There you are going to give 3%. So 100 minus 3, that means you will be posting 97, whatever euros or INR, whatever it is. So whether you want to post gross or whether you want to post net value, you will be deciding in the Miro transaction. Okay, so let's see that how to do that. Okay, so this is our posting gross or posting net. Okay, if you post the gross amount of an invoice, the system ignores the cash discount amount when you enter the invoice. That's what I told you. So the 3% it will not consider. Whereas posting net, if you post the net amount, if an invoice, the system posts the cash discount to stock or cost account. Okay, so whether an invoice is posted gross or net depends on the document type of the accounting document. This I will show it in the system. Okay, so if you go to the Miro transaction again, I'll start it again. I'm not posting it. Go to Miro transaction again. Okay, enter the invoice date, enter. Now enter your purchase order. Okay, now if you go to the payment, go to details. See, if you see here, there is a field called document type. So this document type decides whether you want to post gross value or net value. So if you see here we are posting gross invoice receipt based on this document. Okay, if you want to post net, you have to change it. Net invoice receipt. This is where you will be deciding. Okay, so this is the one. So whether an invoice is posted gross or net depends on the document type of the accounting document. So this document type is configured at this path. OMR4. I'll directly jump to the transaction. OMR4. OMR4. If you go to this transaction, see here you have document types. Click on the document type. If the document type we are using is RE. If you go to here, RE, gross invoice receipt. This is the one. If you go to invoice, this is the one. Gross invoice receipt. So if you go to this gross invoice receipt, go to details, select that one, go to details. You see here, control data. Here this net document type checkbox is not activated. That means we are posting gross. If you want to post net, you have to activate this checkbox. This is the place where it happens. Again, these document types normally will be created by the finance team. Okay, you will not be creating in the real time, but as a consultant, you should know this. These document types will be normally created by the finance team. FICO consultants, they will create. This is what called whether you want to post gross or net while doing the invoice verification, invoice entry. Okay. So next one we will be talking about is invoices in foreign currency. Okay. So invoices in foreign currency means, let's say you have a vendor, foreign vendor. Okay. His currency is normally, let's say you have local currency. You have your local currency. and you have a vendor. He is having his currency. Let's say he's having his own currency. So now for this, you will be maintaining the exchange rate. Okay, so I'll tell you this how this will work. Okay, so suppose if I go back, I'll not say this. Let's go to ME21N. I'll go to vendor. I'll select. Let me take this vendor. Okay, purchasing group, company code, enter. Okay, motor construction. Okay, GBP. Just one more time. What is GBP? British pound. Okay, so let's say I'll take this vendor. His vendor currency is this one. Okay, so basically the currency of a vendor again it will be maintained in the vendor master. So suppose if I go to the vendor master /n xk03, if I go to this vendor 1008, continue, this is the one, order currency. You see, his vendor currency is British pound, but our currency, this system currency is maintained in euros, EUR. So due to that, so local currency is EUR, euros, and the vendor which we are looking at is GBP, British pound. Okay, so now as the currency is not matching, you will have an exchange rate in the system. Okay, so if you go to the PO, you see here there is an exchange rate maintained. Exchange rate has come. So this exchange rate will be maintained by the finance team. They will maintain. Okay, so if there are two types. One is maintain exchange rate. Okay, so that will be, system will read that exchange rate and automatically it will propose. Another one is they will maintain manually. Another one is maintain exchange rate manually. Another one is normally the exchange rate will be changing daily. It will not be a fixed one. Normally, you know, our foreign currency exchange rates will be changing daily. So that will get updated daily through a third party system. Third party system. Of course, this will be taken care by the FI team, finance team, not by us. Only thing is, what you need to understand is, whenever the currency is not matching with our local currency, system will propose the exchange rate. Either this exchange rate comes from here if they maintain manually in the system, okay, or it will get updated daily through a third party system. This design will be taken care by FIT, finance team. Okay, so this is the exchange rate. So now what you need to understand here is, if the exchange rate is fixed, when you do the invoice verification, system will not allow you to change the rate. Will not allow you to change the rate in the invoice verification. Suppose now if the exchange rate is not fixed, when you do the invoice verification, you can change the rate. System will propose the default exchange rate, but you can change it. That is what. If this rate is fixed, the system uses the exchange rate from the purchase order to convert the foreign currency to the local currency at good receipt and at invoice receipt also. Okay, so now if you see it here, if you go to our this thing here, as of now exchange rate is not fixed. This checkbox is not activated. Now one more thing is, let's say I'll change the currency to let's say I'll change it to USD. If I change the currency to USD, you see the exchange rate will get changed. See, exchange rate got changed automatically. That means in the system, somewhere they maintain the exchange rate between USD to Euro. Suppose now if you change the currency to euro, you see what? See, it has become 1 because as of now in the system for the company code 1000, the default currency is local currency is euro because this SAP is from Germany. So normally it will take the default currency as euro. See, that's why the exchange rate is 1. Okay. Anyhow, I'll go to our normal exchange rate, GBP, the vendor currency. Okay. I'll create the PO. Just 1 minute. Let me complete the PO creation. Enter net price. I'll put 5 GBP. Okay, that's okay. Check. Okay. Now I'll save the purchase order. Save. Purchase order got created. Okay, this is my purchase order. I'll do the MIGO. Goods asset MIGO 224. Okay, I'll enter the store location. Check. Everything okay. Now post it. Okay, now I posted it. Now let's do the invoice verification. So when you do the invoice verification, /NMIR, okay, enter the date, enter. Now I'll enter my PO, enter. So we entered the data. Now if you go here, payment details, see. Now here the exchange rate got proposed over here. Are you able to see? Why it is not changeable is means even before entering the transaction, I need to enter. Otherwise, once you enter the PO, you cannot change it. So when you are entering into the transaction itself, you have to enter the new exchange rate. If at all the exchange rate from the PO is got changed. Suppose if I go back, I'll not say this. When you go to Miro transaction itself, initially only you have to enter. Okay, you go to here details. Here you have to enter the new exchange rate. Then after that you will enter the PO. If at all your exchange rate got changed from the PO. Okay, so that is what the exchange rate. Now I don't want to change the exchange rate from the PO. Okay, so let's say I'll go to PO again. ME22N. I'll go to change mode. Of course, this PO we already done with good receipt. Okay, that's okay. Now let's say this is the exchange rate. I don't want this exchange rate to be changed in my invoice verification. Then you have to activate this checkbox. So once you activate this checkbox, system will not allow you to change this exchange rate in the invoice verification. That's what you need to understand. Okay. So this is what. If the exchange rate is not fixed, if this rate is fixed, the system uses the exchange rate from the purchase order to convert the foreign currency to the local currency. Now if the rate is not fixed, the system uses the current exchange rate to convert the foreign currency to the local currency at good receipt. And in invoice verification, the system also suggests the current exchange rate as the exchange factor, but you can change it. That means, let's say you created a PO on a particular date. Let's say creation of PO done on, let's say, 20th of August, 2008, 2018. Okay. Now that day, let's say the exchange rate, let's assume scenario where it is. That day, this is the exchange rate. Assume a scenario. Okay. Now you are doing invoice verification, invoice entry on, let's say, 02/09/2018. Now this is the exchange rate in the PO, but on this date, on the invoice entry date, system will not propose this date. Okay, it will propose the current date exchange rate. Let's say on the day the exchange rate is, let's say this one, 0.650. The system will propose this one, not this one, which is in the purchase order. That's what you need to understand here. In invoice verification, of course, the rate is not fixed. If the rate is not fixed, in invoice verification, the system also suggests the current exchange rate, okay, as the exchange factor. But again, you can change it. Okay. So now you see, when I try to enter the different exchange rate, what kind of messages you will get. Let's say I'll enter exchange rate like 1.66. I entered it, enter, go to basic data, date entered, I'll enter the PO, entered the PO. Now I entered a exchange rate different from the PO exchange rate. You see what we already processing the document. Sorry, just one. Let me save this. Okay, yes. Okay, so now I'll enter. See what you are getting. Exchange rate and currency copied from purchase order. That's okay. If you go to details, sorry, just one. Miro. Actually, I made it fixed. I made it fixed. Oh, sorry, I made it fixed. I'll change it. Just 1 minute. I'll change it. I'll not make it fixed. See, initially as I made it fixed, system, even though I entered a different exchange rate, again it took from the PO. But now I am deactivating this exchange rate fixed. I'll save the PO. Okay. And now again I'll start Miro transaction freshly. Okay. First I'll go to details. Sorry, enter the invoice date. Go to exchange rate. I'll put a different exchange rate. I entered a different exchange rate. I will enter the PO. See what warning message you are getting. Exchange rate deviate from the table rate. That means whenever you go to a Miro transaction, system will read the current exchange rate from the tables, which is maintained by the finance team. As we entered a different exchange rate here, system is giving you this warning message. Okay, anyhow, it will allow, enter, done. Then you can continue with your invoice verification. That is what you need to understand. Either you can have fixed exchange rate in the PO, you activate the checkbox, or you can have without fixed also. That is what you need to understand. And I always remember, in the invoice verification, provided if the exchange rate is not fixed, system will always propose current exchange rate, not from the PO, because PO creation will be done on a different date and invoice verification will be done on a different date. By that time, the exchange rate will be changed. That's what you need to understand. Okay, so this is all about your foreign currency. Now we will discuss on the invoices for POs with account assignment. Okay, that means the consumable materials. Okay, this we discussed during our initial classes. Let's say you are purchasing a material folder, 100 folders you are procuring. Let's say you are procuring total 300 folders. Okay, among that 100 folders I need it for one cost center, 200 folders for one cost center. Okay, so this, when you create the purchase order, this account assignment you can do to the different cost center. From here, when you do the invoice verification, you have the option of changing the quantities and cost centers in the invoice verification. Okay, so I'll show you that. This we already discussed, different types of account assignments. Okay, try to recollect our purchasing classes. We discussed purchasing of consumable materials, where we use the account assignment category as cost center. So when you use this cost center as account assignment category, so when you do the invoice verification, you have the option of changing the different quantities getting posted to different cost centers. That option is available. Okay, so I'll show you that in the system, provided you have partial invoice indicator available in your PO. Okay, so we will see this in the system. I'll create a brand new PO, ME21N. Okay, ME21 I am creating. Let me take the vendor. Sorry, I'll take the old vendor. Enter purchasing organization, group, company code. Now account assignment category I'm selecting as K, cost center. We are procuring a non-stock item, consumable material. Let's say I'll enter folder. I'll enter for 100 quantity. Plant is 1000. Enter. It is asking price on. Okay, price 10 IN. Okay, enter order unit each. Okay, material group, because this is a non-stock item, you have to enter all the data Here there is no material code. We are procuring a non-stock item, and it will be posted to the cost center. K means cost center. Now here I'll enter the cost center. Okay, now we have the option of dividing the quantity to multiple account assignments, multiple cost centers. Try to recollect our initial classes. This we discussed already during our procurement of consumable materials. That time we discussed already. Okay, so here if you click on this button, multiple account assignment, just click on that. You can split this quantity to different cost centers. Let's say I'll split this to 60 to this cost center and 40 to this cost center. Okay, I'll enter the cost center. Okay, so 60 quantity to this cost center and 40 to this cost center. Okay, now here if you see, the partial invoice indicator is activated, distribute proportional. So this indicator need to be activated in the PO. So now I'll save the PO. I'm creating a purchase order for a consumable material. Okay, so save it. Okay, with multiple account assignment, multiple accounts. Okay, so this is a PO. Select the PO. Let us do the GR, goods receipt, MICO, goods receipt, purchase order. Enter the PO number. Enter. So we are receiving the entire 100 folders. Check. Okay, as this is a non-stock item, no need to enter the storage location. Post it. We did the MIGO. Now when you do the invoice verification, Miro, enter the invoice date. Okay, so what was the PO number? Sorry, what was the PO number? Just one minute. 23. This is a PO number. This is a PO number. If you take the PO, enter the PO number here. Okay, now click on enter. Okay, now if you see, total amount is 1000. Now just scroll to right. If you scroll to right, here you have a button, account assignment edit. So if you click on this button, edit. Okay, you see system is proposing from the PO 60 quantity to this one and 40 quantity to this cost center. But here you have the option of changing the quantities. Here you can change it like this. I can make it to 70 and this I can make it to 30. That option is on. That you can change it. That is what you are going to do. That's what in the system will propose. You have the purchase order. You have the cost center for different quantities. Now you make the GR. But while doing the invoice verification, you can change it. You can change as per your requirement. Okay, so that is the invoice verification with multiple account assignment. Here, even in the here, even if here you can add one. Sorry, here you can add one more cost center also. Let's say this is 30. What I want to do, 15 to one cost center and another 15 to one cost center. That also you can do that here. Add the GL account, business area. You can add one more cost center here. Like that, you can do the splitting, provided you have this partial invoice indicator activated in the purchase order. So this is what called items with multiple account assignments. Okay. So now the next one is we will be discussing is invoices for blanket purchase orders. So invoices for blanket purchase order means we discussed already the blanket purchase orders in our previous classes. So whenever you create a blanket purchase order, you give a validity date. Okay, and you give a value limit. So when you have this validity date and value limit, when you are doing the invoicings, when the limit is exceeded on the Miro transaction, once the limit is exceeded, system will not allow you to post the invoice. And at the same time, if you post an invoice out of the validity date, here the validity date is Jan 01 to December 31. Now if you try to post an invoice in the Jan 15th, let's say this year is 2018. Okay, now if you post an invoice for the same PO in Jan 15th of 2019 year, system will throw the error, validity period exceeded. So in case of blanket purchase orders, when you do invoice verification, system will always check whether the limit is exceeded or validity period is exceeded. That is what system will check. Okay. So this is all about your what do you call invoice verification part 2.